Hi, welcome everybody. We're just going to be starting off in a few minutes. We're just going to give everybody a couple more minutes to be able to join us online, and we'll get started as soon as possible. That's great. We see more people joining online. We'll start off with quick intros in a bit. We'll just give everybody another minute or so to be able to kick off, and we'll go from there. So it's just a minute past 11. We'll kick off at 2 minutes past the hour. And again, thank you very much for joining. We appreciate having everybody here. Just as a friendly note, there's a chat dialog box available to you if you have any questions or comments throughout the session. Please feel free to ask. We'll be answering the questions live or at the earliest opportunity to be able to ask. So, please be fair to feel free to use the chat option in there, just at the bottom of the presentation. So it looks like we're at 11:02 and keeping mind of time and making sure that everybody's time is extremely valuable. My name is Jag Midger. I am the Director of Sales over here at DTech. And on the line with me, I have Daniel Richards, who is the Managing Director for Sonru for Europe, Middle East, Asia, as well as the Americas. So Daniel covers absolutely a lot of ground. And again, throughout this presentation, please feel free to ask questions. We will send out a copy of the slide deck to everybody, and at the same time, I'll reach out if anybody has any questions and be able to help you there. Once again, I'm Jag. I'm the Director of Sales over at DTech, and I'm going to have Daniel take over and help with the presentation.
Great. Thanks, Jag. Always great to be talking with you and the DTech team. Interestingly, today's topic will be video interviews. I'm sure when Cisco released their report on the predictions of the total online internet traffic that would be video, they had predicted 82%, but I'm sure they didn't factor in the current pandemic worldwide because I think all of us are on any mobile device these days and looking at each other on Zoom, Skype, whatever it might be, FaceTime. Moving on, from what we offer at Sonru is a video interview platform. We offer live. Today's topic will be predominantly focused on automated video interviews. We also call it asynchronous video interviews. So basically, it replicates a Skype or a face-to-face or even a telephone interview for all of our clients, whereby the candidate is not online at the same time as the recruiter. So as you can see on the image here, the candidate completing and answering an interview question on the mobile device, it is actually, there's no one on the other side, and you're answering the questions when it seems fit. The idea behind the concept was to offer a structured and fair and consistent process for all the recruitment process for the candidates. But at the same time, for candidates, it allows them, instead of just submitting a CV, a resume, it allows them to put a little bit more life behind it, put some personality. And when we started the company over 10 years ago, we saw that the boom of YouTube, et cetera, and we could see that actually candidates and people were more and more comfortable around the concept of being behind that camera. The other thing it offers is really convenience, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes, but I mean, now we've got social distancing, which is making us adopt and use more and more concepts like this. But before COVID-19, we've seen a lot of clients and candidates really enjoy the process. So how it works, just on the next slide, It's simple. The candidate receives an invitation, usually via email. It can be triggered from within the ATS, or it can be triggered within the Sonru platform. You can invite as many candidates as you want. To give you guys an idea, one client about 2 weeks ago invited 25,000 plus candidates in 1 week for 1 weekend to complete their video interview. My client, who in 2019 completed the most online video interviews, was a worldwide retailer, and they did over 200,000 interviews. So you can really you can invite as many candidates as you want. The candidates then will be invited, will complete their video interview. They'll get to practice before they begin their interview as many times as they want. But once they've started their video interview, they can't stop, edit, or redo it. So hence the fair and structured process. Once the candidate has completed their video interview, the recruiter will be able to review those video interviews, share them with the hiring managers, and decide which ones should be coming to the next step. Our next slide is just to give you a flavor of what
sorry, Daniel, like. just 1 second before you get into that. One of the questions that we had come in was about your comment around the ATS. Is it, and again, I know the answer to this, but is it mandatory to have an integration with an ATS to be able to use the Sonru platform?
Not at all. The large clients do have an integration, most of them. But for many of our smaller clients, they've never integrated it to their ATS. So that's not a problem at all. We offer standalone or integrated solutions.
Great, thank you.
Good question. The next slide is hopefully a brand that you would recognize. What we offer is really, from a candidate experience, a brilliant experience. So the branding, we can add images, we can make it really interactive. There's a lot of video for the candidate as they log in around steps, videos around the process. And then also what you're seeing here is the type of questions that you could ask are not just text-based. So you could add, recruiter could be asking the question. Could be situations, like this one here is a situation of a team, and to see how you would react in a certain situation with a team building exercise. And then you could even add questions that are more technical, or even like coding tests or finance tests. So the platform really offers you a lot of flexibility around that. The other thing I want to add is for candidates, because a lot of them are at home. Actually, the large majority of the candidates complete their video interview at home and over the weekend. They can complete it on over 3,000 mobile devices. So over 40% of the candidates were completing last year their video interview off a mobile device.
Hey, that's great. I'm sorry, Daniel, just a quick question. They were asking whether the questions are, from an item list that they pick, or are they customizable? What are some of the options? And can you go a little bit deeper into the situational interviews? So, whether
Sure.
it's having a person like myself or somebody, a recruiter from the team, show up and ask a question, or to respond to a video.
Yep. Well, the platform offers a library of questions, so a recruiter can just pick and choose from a library of questions that can be sorted and inside the platform. For a lot of our clients, there's a need for more automation. So based on, let's say, job code 123, these are the questions by default that all the candidates will receive. With regards to the type of question, it really is, most of the clients will start with a baby step approach. They'll start with just standard simple text questions, and then evolve later on to adding situations or adding video questions. But in most of our clients, actually, the idea is the better you assess your candidates, the further you advance and add those situations. Are a great example. I've seen clients how they've used it for other examples. One of our big car manufacturing companies actually had a finance director where there was basically a spreadsheet of a balance sheet, and they asked the candidates where to where was the error in the balance sheet. So you can actually be quite creative when using, even if you're using automated asynchronous video interviews.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Daniel.
The next slide, basically, it's a no-brainer, but obviously the candidate's not talking and online at the same time. So it becomes basically 24/7. We've got candidates completing their video interviews at all hours. Hence, we offer a 24/7 support, live chat, telephone, and email if they have any issues. But the one joke I have with a lot of recruiters is just telling them, do you work over the weekends? Because that's when, on a Monday morning, when you're going to start working, you're going to have candidates who have completed their video interview over the weekend, and you'll be able to watch their video interviews. And that allows also the candidates to be more happier about the process, because then they can complete it when it suits them. We recently surveyed thousands of candidates, and the one thing that they picked the most was choosing the time to interview, as 39% of the candidates felt that was the reason why they loved completing an automated video interview. From a recruiter side, and this is the next slide I mean, we've got a whole bunch of client great case studies on our website. Some big brands like DHL, Nestle, Rolls-Royce, some of the biggest brands you've ever heard of, but also smaller organizations. And it really varies client by client, but a large majority have actually seen a lot of the savings, drastic savings around the recruitment process, but also efficiency and time consumption is reduced significantly. Just think about it. Yep, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Daniel. Yeah, I was just kind of butting in for a second.
Sure.
You know, when I'm talking to my clients that are using the tools, they talk to me, and again, if I go back to my days as a recruiter, the time that I used to spend, you know, calling candidates to be able to book a pre-screen or to complete a pre-screen was a large portion of my morning.
Exactly.
And then, because they're working, you know, a lot of the great candidates are working, and because they're working, you're speaking to them after hours because, you know, at the time they're not available during the day to speak.
Yeah. And imagine when you're then also trying to schedule not just candidates, but the hiring managers as well.
Right.
I mean, there's, thank God for calendars, but it's, you know, you've got candidates sometimes that will become a no-show. That's a lost hour slot, you know, so there's a lot that factors in. One of our big retail clients actually identified in time savings how much it used to take them to conduct it was like 100 telephone interviews versus how much it takes them to conduct 100 video interviews, and it's a drastic reduction. We're talking days versus hours. But yeah, from an HR perspective, we've got great case studies that actually I highlight many of those benefits, and if I urge you, if you're interested. Now, the next slide will highlight in a little bit more details. We surveyed last year the users across the Sonru platform. By users, I'm referring to the recruiters. And the primary reason where most of the HR recruitment teams reached out to us was to look at cost reduction and also most of the time efficiency. Interestingly, improving the candidate selection was very low on that list. You can see here it's 9% only. Now, today, if you ask them afterwards, and this is what part of the survey was, so the following slide is the reason why they're continuing using Sonru and video interviewing, automated video interviews, is predominantly because they're finding that it's helping them better assess the candidates. So 88% of the recruiters are highlighting that this is enabling them to better assess the candidates. So,
you know,
yep.
Daniel, just to kind of interrupt you again, and I apologize for doing this.
Yeah.
You know, again, speaking to some of my customers here that are using your platform, you know, a big one comes out from a lot of the, you know, small and medium-sized organizations that don't have massive recruitment teams that, you know, are isolated to, you know, tech or IT. And, often enough when they're doing the pre-screens, they're taking notes and they don't really kind of understand completely all the technical jargon that's coming in, but they're taking these notes and they're sharing them with the hiring manager. And some of the feedback I get from these guys and these ladies is, now I don't necessarily have to be able to speak that technical jargon. I can then, send it directly over to the manager to review and say, hey, does this make sense? And if this makes sense, I'll look at the rest of the interview if required.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on the next slide here, you're going to see why to continue. So if we can just click on the next slide, there you go. So this is coming back to Jag, your point is 88% of them are saying they're now assessing the best candidates much more effectively. So I mean the idea of, obviously now we're all doing social distancing. We've got we're forced to do it. So video interviewing is obviously more probably, we've seen a huge increase on adoption on our platform, but what we're seeing is even prior to social distancing, clients were already seeing massive improvements in the recruitment process using automated video interviews. Now, we're not the only ones. There's all kinds of solutions out there. Zoom is obviously very much in the news. You can see here that it's live video interviews has been endorsed by and been around for a long time now. Gartner is obviously highlighted that one. But asynchronous video interviews, automated video interviews is what we refer to. They're seeing that as a high adoption, high impact, and high in future importance. And this report by Gartner was released less than 6 months ago. So we're talking about prior to the pandemic, they could see that employers and recruiters are adopting it more and more. And we've got great additional research that supports that. Gartner obviously is the leaders in market research. It was great for them to endorse this kind of solution. But it just shows you that actually, whatever your challenge, you're not. There's a lot of employers out there now reverting to this kind of solution. If obviously there's just like anything that you're implementing or looking at, there's always a cost, but that cost hopefully always comes back with a return. And we've built some literature and some guides around that. It's available on our website. Jag, I know you work closely with a lot of the clients, VTech, around this kind of, investment versus cost, and if it's an investment, usually there's a return. So for us, there is obviously a cost, but I can guarantee you, if there's interest or anything, the VTech Sonru team are always available to provide a full demo and can show you how there is a massive return. We really just scratched the surface here, and it's really kind of meant to intrigue more and have follow-up conversations and go through the demo. But one of the questions, Daniel, that I had come out was, how many questions is somebody able to respond to? What are the length of time they're able to spend? And then I've got another follow-up right after you answer that. Yeah, sure. Actually, Jack, that's great. I didn't think we were going to go at that level of detail today, so that's great. So we have best practices with clients. So what we're trying to replace technically is the telephone interview for our clients, or the first interview with automated video interviews. So we would recommend anywhere between 5 to 8 questions. 12 to 18 minutes is what we would recommend. Now, automated video interviews can last up to 30 minutes, but if you think about it from a candidate perspective, it's a monologue in front of your webcam, so you don't want to be spending too much time on that. So you're going to read the question or watch the video, and then you're going to answer it. If you're speaking in front of your webcam for, let's say, 12 questions, that might be too lengthy. If you're speaking for over half an hour, that might be too lengthy. So that's our best practice.
And the follow-up question to this one was, so the average interview is, say, 12 to 18 minutes. How long are recruiters typically spending on reviewing the interview questions before, they kind of either move off or are they listening? Are they investing, the full 12 to 18 minutes when they're talking to somebody or watching someone's videos?
Yeah, another great question, and it's a bit controversial right now. So we, as part of our platform, we require that the recruiters watch the video interviews or the hiring managers. Doesn't mean you have to watch each question. So for some of our clients that do hundreds of thousands of interviews, there will be a question that they will watch first and define if the candidate should go to the next. It's worth watching the entire video interview. Whereas we don't analyze the video of the response of the candidate to try to determine if it's a better candidate. I'm a big believer in AI and its power, but analyzing video, one of our competitors is being sued by the U.S. Government on that basis. We are very careful on that, but it's a field that we're definitely exploring as well. So recruiters will watch and determine, then share with the recruiters, the hiring managers. That's what most of our clients and users do.
Just two more questions, Daniel.
Sure.
So the next question is, we understand that we've got the the interview questions to be able to review. If we wanted to do a live interview, do we have to go to our Skype or our Zoom or other items, or are they, again, in the Sonru platform?
Yeah, so live is part of the platform on Sonru. Most of our clients use live as a final step after the asynchronous video interview or the automated. But you can actually also initiate a live from the start. Usually, if you're going to start with a live, it's because it's probably more of a senior role or things like that. But asynchronous automated video interviews are very powerful for volume roles, more junior roles, roles that have things like, where interpersonal skills are important, like sales. If you're, as a sales rep, and you're looking for a job and you get the chance to showcase your personality, they usually love that.
Wonderful, thanks. The last question that I have so far is, the question reads, hey Jag, if I signed up for this today, what is how long before I'm actually able to implement the solution?
Usually just a couple of days. So it doesn't mean that we're going to go and implement every single feature right off the bat. But for some of our clients, we were time rushed, and we can set it up within that same week. So yeah, if you've got a recruitment drive coming up, and this would be a great solution for you, we can speed up the process and put you up and running. Obviously, integrations are a little bit more trickier depending on the ATS, and that might drag the project to a few weeks. But even then, we can set those up very quickly.
Wonderful. Daniel, do you see a lot of organizations or larger organizations using this for their campus recruitment?
Yep. Well, obviously, a lot of graduate recruitment processes, campaigns have been put on hold lately, but I'm hoping that won't be the case for too long, especially for the graduates that are graduating and looking for a new job. But we, for most of our clients, that's where they start off using Sonru. It's a no-brainer. Graduates will absolutely endorse this, and they're oftentimes applying to many employers. So, in fact, to give you guys an idea, NACE, which is the U.S. National Agency for Graduate Recruitment, I forget what it stands for. But just 3 years ago, they were already above 50% of candidates, graduates, were being interviewed using some form of video interviews. I'm sure now we're probably close to the 70–80% in Americas. In Europe, same thing. Asia, we've got a great number of clients in Asia as well. So wherever you're hiring, graduates are now pretty much used to this kind of form of interviewing.
All right, looks like our absolute last question, and this one seems like a fun one. Actually, I'd like to know the answer to this. What time are most people responding to interviews? Is it at night? Is it a date? You know, what does your data show you?
Yeah, absolutely. So weekends are the peak times for us, and support knows that. So weekends and after hours. So depending on your time zone. So because we've got clients all over the world, during the week it pretty much varies. It's consistent, but weekends, Sundays, believe it or not, Sundays are peak because a lot of the recruiters put the deadline on the Sunday. So candidates are rushing to complete their video interview on a Sunday.
Wonderful. Thank you. Daniel, do you have anything else in closing?
No. Yeah, final slide was just to thank you all for attending and listening. We hope to hear from you. And Jag, I'm sure you're going to be talking to all. Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate you spending the time to learning a little bit more about the interview process through Sonru. You know, again, we've just barely touched the surface on what the platform looks like. You know, what the candidate experience is, and you know how successful we've been with other organizations implementing the solution. I look forward to speaking to you in depth in regards to this tool. And I wish everybody a happy Thursday, you know, and I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. Thank you very much, and bye for now. Thanks, Jag.
Bye.